Hi, today we are going to look at labels in LibGDX. Labels are basic component as part of the Scene2D library for LibGDX. Okay, so one thing we are going to notice as part of this tutorial is that in the background I have a little grid, white and blue with blue squares. Basically, in my previous tutorial about images, I have shown you how to use a repeating texture, and I've created a background with a repeating texture of a white square in order to make it easier to see where our fonts are and how they wrap, okay? I am not going to explain as part of this tutorial how I have generated this grid. Please go back to that image tutorial for more information about that. Okay, so the first thing you need to decide when you are going to create labels in LibGDX is how you manage your fonts. There are three ways to do that. One is to use BitmapFont. A BitmapFont is basically an image of your font, a pre-rendered image of your font. We'll look at that. It's basically a static way of loading your images. The second way is to use GDX FreeType extension. It means that using a TrueType font and you generate on the fly your bitmap font within your code. It has benefit because instead of having pre-generated images of your font, you can generate them on the fly, which means you can generate them in different sizes. But it has an inconvenience, which is that GDX FreeType does not run on your HTML version of LibGDX. This is why GDX FreeType is an extension to LibGDX and it's not part of the core library. And last, you have your skin. Skin is a bit like CSS. So basically, you define all your styles into a package, and then within your code, you can just call a style, and you don't have within your code the definition of what a font looks like. You just say, I want to use a style title, and it will look for the right bitmap font. And it's also a static way of importing your font. So in summary, you have your bitmap font, which is a static image of your font. You have GDX FreeType, which is an extension to LibGDX. It allows you to generate on the fly your bitmap font based on a TrueType font, but it doesn't run on desktop. So if you are going to use desktop, don't use this. And last, you have Skin, which is a way to package your font into a package similarly to what you will do in HTML with a CSS. Let's look at each of these way of generating labels. Alright, so let's look at bitmap fonts. So bitmap fonts are explained in on the LibGDX website. There are a bunch of tools out there available for you to use, which allow you to take a TrueType font, such as used by on your Mac or on Microsoft Word or whatever, and convert it into an image version of that font. So basically, a popular tool, for example, is Zero. And with Zero, you can load a system font, define the size, and it will generate for you the bitmap font, which, as you can see, is basically an image of your font. So now the only thing you need to do is, as part of LibGDX, we're going to load this bitmap font and create a label using that bitmap font. Okay, so before we create a label, we are going to create a label style, which is going to define the look and feel of my label. So here I have created a label style, label one style, and this label style is going to use a bitmap font. So I have my bitmap font, my font, which is loading the output of Zero, which is that font here, Humble Regular 26 font, which I have copied into my asset folder. Okay, and so I assign my bitmap font to my label style, and I set the color of my font as color red. Okay, so now that I have defined my label style, which is using my bitmap font, I can just create my label. which is my title, and my title is going to use my label style, and I'm going to set it to be the entirety of the width of my screen, and I'm going to set it on the second row of my screen, and I'm going to center it. Let's look at what it looks like. There we go. So here I have created my title using my BitmapFont. As you can see, when I set the size of my label, I set the size of the entire screen. So this is the size of the container of the label. So the container of that label is going from here to here, the entire width of the screen. And the row, the eighth of my container is one row, 8. Okay. So within that container, I have set the alignment to the center. So that's something that it's important. It's that when you set the size of the label, you're not setting the size of the font. You are setting the size of the label containing the text. Okay, and that text is defined as part of the constructor for the label here. And how it is rendered is using label one style. That label one style is using a font, and that font is loaded as part of this BitmapFont. And that's how you use BitmapFont. That BitmapFont I have created using Yero. Yero is one of the many tools available to convert a TrueType font into a bitmap font. So in summary, a bitmap font is a graphical representation of a TrueType font, and you load it and you assign it to a label, and you can then show it. Okay, so now let's go back to the objective of this tutorial. We have seen at BitmapFont. Now we are going to use a GDX FreeType. So previously we've seen how to load the BitmapFont and to assign it to a label. The problem with that is that depending on the device you are going to run your application, might have different size, might have different resolution. So it's pretty nice to be able to set the size of your font at runtime, and to set it, for example, to a fraction or a percentage of your screen size. So you cannot use BitmapFont for that because they are pre-generated graphics. So you're going to use GDX FreeType, which is an extension for LibGDX, and which allow you to use a TrueType font as an input and generate on the fly your BitmapFont. Now there is a limitation using GDX FreeType, is that GDX FreeType does not run on desktop. So if you are going to use your application, if your target for your application is to run on a computer, then do not use GDX FreeType. If you are going to only target Android and iOS device, GDX FreeType is a great way to generate your font. That's why when you create your base application with LibGDX, FreeType is not included by default in your application. You need to actually include it as a third party. Okay, so here, since we have created our application using that extension, we are now going to create and generate dynamically out of the, on the fly our bitmap font. How do we do that? Oh, it's easy. In my asset folder, I have a TrueType font, basically Amber Light, and it's a TTF TrueType font. So now the only thing I'm going to do is I'm going to generate my font. I'm going to generate my font. Okay, so I'm going to do a FreeType font generator, and for that I'm going to use my font Amber Light, which is in my asset folder, and I am going to assign FreeType font parameters to my generator. Here you have a very large number of parameters you can use. It's pretty cool in the number of things you can do with your font. I'm going to set my size to 30, border width, color yellow, offset shadow, and so on and so forth, and put the color of my shadow, and basically I'm going to generate my font of type font 30 based on this parameter, font type 30. Okay, and then once I've generated my my bitmap font, again, I can just create my label style, and my label style is basically taking as bitmap font the font I just generated, which is font 30. And now I can again create my label, and this label is based on a TrueType font, and it's taking as an input my label style, which is based on my bitmap font, which I have generated on the fly. Okay, let's execute this. Okay, here we go. So I have generated my font based using GDX FreeType, and for the complete list of the parameters you can use for GDX FreeType, you can check out the wiki for GDX FreeType. You have a lot of parameters, and it allows you to do very cool font. Again, GDX FreeType is a great way to generate on the fly your font and then to use them for your label. It's great. The only limitation is that you cannot run it on your desktop. That's why, like, if it's not included by default when you create your LibGDX application. Okay. So far we have looked at how to create bitmap font, static bitmap font, how to generate on the fly your bitmap font using GDX FreeType extension. And now we are going to use the last way of handling labels, which is using a skin. And a skin is basically similarly to what you will do with HTML. It's the equivalent of a CSS. It creates all the styles you are going to use for your Scene2D elements. It's a very neat way of removing the appearance of your elements from your code, because in your code you can just refer to the styles. Okay, so let's look at that. In order to create your skins, you can just go to, for example, there are a bunch of resources on the internet in terms of skin. There is this wiki here, GDX skins, which contains already a lot of skins which have been generated for you. A great site here, and you can see that, for example, if we look at comic, we can see a bunch of skin for your element with default button size and labels and fonts, etc. We can look at flat earth, a little bit more vintage. So for this tutorial, we are going to use Glassy. It's quite a simple and elegant skin, which has been generated by Raymond Buckley. Well done. I really quite like this skin. Of course, you can create your own skins, and on that website here, you have resources on how to create your own skins and package them. Okay. Okay, so the first thing that you will do, we are going to use a pre-existing skin, and I have downloaded Glassy into my asset folder, and I copied the folder skin with the different font and atlas and JSON for that skin into my in my asset folder. So now how do I do that? I'm going to load that skin into my LibGDX application. Here we go. So I loaded my skin, and then it's very easy, really. I'm going to create a label, and I'm going to use that skin. And here's this parameter black is basically the style for the layout, the style for the label I want to use. So within your skin, you will see that there is a file called a JSON file which contains the definition of all the different styles. So if you're familiar with CSS, it's not going to look so weird to you, but here you see that all the bitmap font have been defined. So if you say that you want to use bitmap font called font, it will use this font. If you want font big, it's going to use this font. So let's look at label style. So for this, for the labels, there are 4 styles which are already existing for this as part of this skin. The default, big, which is using the big font, black, which is basically using the same font but color black, and then the big black, large, the large font in black. So when here we are actually declaring our label, it's going to look for the label style as part of the skin, and it's going to look for the one called black. Okay, so black, it means it's going to use the font and the font color black. So if we look at this, it's going to use font export.fnt, and it's going to the color black. Okay, so as you can see, all your parameters for your styles are defined inside this JSON. You don't need to write this. You can modify this JSON by hand, but the better way of managing your skin is to use one of the tools available on the internet. And I will recommend GDX skin, this GDX skin on GitHub here, which has a lot of resources, pre-existing skins, but also all kind of links to tools allowing you to create and edit Scene 2D skins. Okay, so now that we have done that, let's run it. All right. Here we go. So now we have generated our label using a skin, and we are generated on 5 columns. So by 5 columns, I mean the size of the container for the label is 5 columns. I have defined the columns as being 1 box. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, that's weird. It's actually longer, and it's not doing a carriage return. Why? Because by default, the wrapping is set to false. So with the labels, you have a bunch of parameters such as the wrapping, and which allow you to, for example, do a carriage return if the text is going longer than the assigned container size. So here we are going to do another label, also using the skin, but we are going to set the wrapping to true. So basically, the size of my container is the same. It's 5 boxes. But this time, if we run this again, all right. This time, if we run it again, and this time I have put a slight longer text, we can see that actually the text has been wrapped around the 5th column. Okay, so this concludes our tutorial about basic label introduction. Labels are part of the Scene 2D library for LibGDX, and it allows you to easily manipulate labels and add them to your stage. The main thing you need to decide when you are going to use labels is how you are going to manage your fonts. There are 3 ways of doing this using BitmapFont. So basically, you pre-generate your image representation of your font at a given size, and you can just load it. TrueType font. So instead of pre-generating your bitmap font, you generate them on the fly. It's very dynamic, and it gives you a lot of flexibility, but it's not included as part of the LibGDX out-of-the-box library. You need to include it at runtime when you generate your when you generate your application, or add it as an extension, because it doesn't run on desktop. So if you are going to use desktop, do not use GDX FreeType. If you are going to iOS and Android, use GDX FreeType. And the last way to manage your font is to use a skin. A skin is a bit like a CSS for LibGDX. It contains the definition of your different styles. And so basically, there are a bunch of tools out there to create skin for you, or you can use existing skin available on the internet. It allows you to abstract all the element looks from your code. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and see you for more exciting tutorial on LibGDX. Thank you.